From Love Against Hate, a daughter's startling memoir of her glamorous Parisian mother and German father in the hellfire of Nazi Berlin, by Christiane. During the last part of the war, the bombings of Berlin intensified even more, reducing 85% of this once thriving metropolis to rubble. Sirens reverberated day and night, but we were too tired to get dressed at each alarm, to run down the stairs to the cellars, which we knew were not safe and where we risked being buried alive, or drowned by floods, or asphyxiated by gas that escaped from destroyed pipes. The last day of April 1945, Admiral Dönitz, who lived 300 meters from us, received the news that Adolf Hitler had committed suicide and had designated the admiral to be his successor. Dönitz knew that he had to leave his home to take command of a country in ruins, and made it known that he would open his own personal bunker to the people of the neighborhood. Very quickly, about 30 women and children were welcomed by Dönitz and his wife. They had themselves lost their 2 sons in the war and wanted to take leave of each of these mothers before going to assume a fate that would lead the admiral to the Nuremberg trials and Spandau prison. That night, the Russian army reached our district and had no difficulty discovering the bunker door. They knocked. There was a moment of panic. "We must not open," the women protested. The iron door would hold up. The concrete walls buried underground were indestructible. My mother, who seemed to be perfectly calm, explained that we had nothing left to eat and had no more drinking water. She took her toiletries out of the black patent leather bag that we took with us at each bombing. She did her hair, put on some very red lipstick, pulled on her tawny fur coat, and walked to the door. Most of the women swarmed to the rear of the shelter. None made a gesture to stop her. I stood behind her. I'd heard that the Russians would kill us immediately. As soon as the door opened, the fresh night air invaded the stuffy space, and I saw the soldiers in the semi-darkness, their uniforms covered with dust, their hair filthy. They must have been walking for days without food or rest. They looked stunned when out of the darkness they saw my mother. They certainly had never met other women who presented themselves like actresses prepared to make a stage entrance. They must have asked themselves, is she the admiral's wife, or even Hitler's? They stood motionless, trying to announce in their few German words that they were freeing us from the Führer. Having never made an effort to learn correct German during her 9 years in Berlin, my mother began reciting sentences in their own language, which she had learned from an old lady, a white Russian who had emigrated to Germany during the Bolshevik Revolution. "I am French. We are allies. Go, get your commander." Taking advantage of the soldiers' surprise, she signaled that she wanted to leave the shelter with the women and children who had slowly inched closer to her. The soldiers stepped back and let us come out one by one. Years later, I realized that if the Russians had actually entered the bunker full of young women, they would have certainly raped them. Very wisely, my mother had perceived this danger and had decided quickly to get them out of that trap.